All right, so you're going to hear me talk a lot about looking for the 1%. Looking for the 1%. What does this mean and why do we care? Okay. Why don't we want tons of progress over a short amount of time? Why don't we want our nervous systems to be completely 100% different by next week? First of all, because 1% over time compounds and lasts. Things that claim to give you huge results in a short amount of time don't always last and don't, most of the time, address the underlying physiology that's creating the problem in the first place. Okay, so if we try to blast your body and nervous system with tons of new energy, for example, always feeling good all the time, okay, it's likely to rebound in an even bigger way. And we have math models to prove this idea in the nervous system, in the psyche. If you look at some of Peter Levine's deeper work, and especially his work from his PhD back in the 70s, it showed that people, if you push them too hard, it's too much energy for the system to heal, for the system to handle, and they're going to rebound and end up in a place in a smaller amount of capacity. Okay, so if we push too hard to heal your nervous system, it can be way too much energy for your system to handle. And this is why, it's a good example of why Kundalini awakenings or Shaktipat, where all these huge releases of energy don't happen often, or if they do, they can cause psychosis if the person hasn't done a lot of work. Or if we add a ton of things all at once, you're likely to quit when you don't get them all. Okay, so my teacher Dharma talks about this too. He says, and Peter will talk about this. Remember that Peter will say for every one session of psychedelic use, you need 12 to 20 sessions of psychotherapy. Dharma, my teacher Dharma, completely different industry. He's a yoga teacher, spiritual teacher. He says this too. He says that people that use drugs before they're ready spiritually, or that people will often use drugs before they're ready spiritually. The spiritual practices of yoga get you there slowly over time in a way that your body and nervous system can handle. Then, if you were to use drugs, you wouldn't feel that much. Okay? I'll admit, the few times that I've done mushrooms, psilocybin, I frankly haven't felt that much. It just felt similar to how I feel at the end of a bhakti devotional yoga class. Full of love, open-hearted, with reverence for the divine, okay? I wasn't using massive doses, but I was using a normal amount, and it just felt the same as doing a lot of yoga, frankly, okay? Maharaji was an Indian enlightened guru, and some researchers came over from Harvard. Harvard and Stanford, they gave him a massive dose of LSD, of acid, and nothing about his perception changed. Nothing. Just think about that. He took a massive dose that researchers at Harvard and Stanford were like, this should normally blow somebody's fuses. And Maharaji, Neem Karoli Baba was his name, this was like, what is this? Nothing is different. So that tells you people are looking, when they are doing drugs, they are looking for a nervous system state, right? They're looking for a nervous system state. They're looking to open their hearts. They're looking to be connected. Okay, so it all starts to make sense when we think about it in this way. So when working in 1% increments, you might look for the ways that you can make yourself 1% more comfortable, for example, in any given moment. Remember, at the beginning of a lot of our group calls, I'll say, what is one thing you can do to kind of settle into your environment right now? Do you need to shift in your seat? Do you need a cup of tea, a blanket? Okay. By paying attention in this way, you start to notice what your body wants and needs, and you start to turn inward, which leads to more self-referral and more connection to your body, higher self-esteem, because you're not being distracted and consumed by the fluctuations of the mind, by thinking and feeling. You're not being consumed, you're just observing. You're able to turn inward and notice that you are the witness of your experience. You are the witness of your internal and external world. Okay? So 1% shifts in the system also looks like noticing the small shifts, noticing when you feel good, when you feel a small shift in your nervous system state. So as you're tracking sensation, when you start to notice, oh, I'm breathing a little deeper, that is it. That is the work. Those are the little cracks that will open your system up to a totally new way of being. It is not some big flash. It's not, okay? And a lot of my work with my one-on-one clients and with folks in the Find Your Freedom method is helping them notice the shifts, because they're so used to being in the trauma and the stress that they don't even realize, oh, my shoulders just settled like 1%. Like right now, let's notice there's the church bells, if you can hear them. I'm in Salzburg, Austria, and I can hear the church bells in the background. They're right over there. We can see them from our window. And I feel a sense of peace. I feel a sense of joy, fulfillment, because this is what my time and location freedom look like for me. I feel alive. I feel, right? Like that little shift, it's the smallest thing. Like we were watching The Sound of Music because it's all set in Salzburg. And what's the song? The song is, these are a few of my favorite things. Right? She sings, these are a few of my favorite things. When the dog barks, when the bee stings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my favorite things, and then I don't feel so bad, right? So she goes and she lists all these things, right? Warm woolen mittens. I mean, I think I got that. I think it's when the dog bites, right? When the dog bites, when the bee stings, when I'm feeling sad. I simply remember my favorite things, and then I don't feel so bad. She doesn't say, I have some grand shift in perception. No, she says warm woolen mittens, right? A cup of tea. I don't even remember all the things she says, right? We go back to that song. So they're the simplest things. In A Course in Miracles, they say, a miracle is simply a shift in perception. A miracle is a shift in perception. Okay? I'll have to come back and remember that, you know, the song from the Sound of Music. That's what it is, you guys. So what are some areas in your life where you've noticed 1% shifts in your body, in your nervous system? Can you acknowledge yourself for those? Be sure to celebrate those little wins, right? I like to keep a wins journal, right? You track your little wins throughout the year and you'll see they really add up. So not just like, oh, I achieved this goal, but oh, on this day, I got a call back from somebody I connected with a friend that felt really encouraging for me. Or I took one step closer. I did my somatic practice today, and that really made a difference for me today. I had a warm cup of tea today, and I felt at ease for 30 seconds. These are the little moments. These are the little moments in your life that build up over time, and they pull you. We call this the blue zone. We call this the counter vortex. Right? The flowers behind me. That is like a huge, for me to be filming content for you in Austria, in a garden. Like, this is something I wanted over like 10 years ago. That I kept, remember, go back to your time and location freedom vision. I kept my eye on this whole time. I knew this is what I wanted to do. And I kept working and I kept working. I kept showing up and I kept working on my nervous system. And I kept going. And here I am. And now I can say, look at the flowers in the garden. Use that to anchor your experience. You don't have to look at me. Look at the flowers. Here, look at the blue sky. It's so gorgeous, right? And Thich Nhat Hanh, the powerful spiritual teacher, said enlightenment is always there. Small enlightenment will bring great enlightenment. So if you breathe in and are aware that you're alive, that you can touch the miracle of being alive, then that is a kind of enlightenment. And what I would say is the more of those moments, those small moments of enlightenment, the more you do that, the more that builds to great enlightenment, the more that you are creating the life that you want. So remember, if all you look for is the 1% shift in every moment, the 1% opening, the 1% crack in the shell that was once your stress, your trauma, your hardened emotional patterns that you've been repeating over time, that's the crack that the light comes in. That's what they say, right? So notice those moments, be with those moments in yourself, track what happens when you notice that and let yourself be with that. And I promise you, your life will change. Okay? See you soon.